What's up, everybody? We just got hit with some nerfs. So I'm streaming a little earlier than I normally do because I wanted to go through this live on stream. I haven't read this yet. So I want to see how bad it actually is. All I saw was self-sustain and survivability and thought, my God, paladins are dead because they had none before. So let's see. Let's read through this and see what it is, what they did to us, and how bad. I put a video up reviewing all the dungeons, and the first comment I got was, "Are you going to review tanks now that they're nerfed to the ground?" So I don't. It looks grim, sounds grim, but we're here. Here we go. Here we go. All right. With the introduction of the daylight. What? With the introduction of the Dragonflight talent system and season-over-season changes, tanks in World of Warcraft have become extremely durable relative to non-tank characters. Their active defenses can mitigate high percentages of incoming damage, and they have strong self-healing. Yeah. Today, in the hardest content in the game, many tanks can... Oh, sorry, I got a text in the middle of this. Oh... Today, in the hardest content in the game, many tanks can sustain themselves without much assistance from healers. In some cases, we've seen it become optimal to do group content without a healer at all. That is very true. But I think that was less because of tanks being incredibly self-sufficient and more so of hybrid classes having an insane amount of off healing. We saw it with feral druids being able to kind of like almost single-handedly keep the group up with what move it's called. Nature's Grace or something like that like all your single target damage heals everybody like that. Those were doing insane healing. I don't think it was the tank. It was, 4 other people with insane off healing, all healing the tank. World of Warcraft is an MMO, and its multiplayer aspects are a major strength. Group content is extremely rewarding when players perform different roles to come together to overcome a challenge. We want to reinforce the importance of the healer role. Jack is probably going nuts right now. Probably pumped. Jack and J.B are probably like, yes, bring the healers back. It worked towards gameplay where tanks and healers collaborate to reduce damage the tank is taking and to restore the tank's lost health. Okay, well, don't hit me so fucking hard. Tank durability can use some other problems as well, tank durability can cause some other problems as well, especially in challenging endgame content that we want to work towards improving. Enemy damage has increased to challenge tanks, but if it's increased too much, it gets spiky and puts tanks in significant danger if their defenses ever drop. This can lead to tanks getting killed rapidly, seemingly out of nowhere, which is true. I feel like that's pretty strong in the beta, but I just felt like everything was overtuned and we're undergeared. We feel this is unsatisfying and would prefer tank damage to be generally evenly distributed. Yeah, but still threatening over time. I think that was one of the biggest issues that we had was, I think rot damage is kind of the best damage we could have. Because it feels like you can, like the healer might be consistently healing with rot damage, but it's not like oh shit, you're about to die, heal them all the way up, you're about to die, heal them all the way up. And it's like, it's kind of just progressive healing throughout the whole fight, whatever you want to call it. So I do agree that it needs to be evenly distributed and not be spiky, because when you have spiky damage on the tank, it becomes AoE damage on the group and it becomes spiky damage on everybody, which means if you're not topped off, you can just get one shot. So it does need to be slower. It can be a slower, consistent damage. I think monk stagger is how tank damage should be. It should be, you should hit like that. Like that's how it should. I think that's how, you're still getting beat up, but it's not just dead and alive. Anyways, if tanks are not threatened enough, then the most challenging part of endgame content can become keeping DPS and healers alive, often against burst damage. Well, that's because DPS and healers don't hit defensives. Actually, healers do. I'll give them credit for that. Making tank survival a more involving element of group gameplay could give us some freedom to ease up on the threat to other group members. So I'm thinking less AoE, more better designed tank damage. If that's how they go, it's probably not too bad. To address the above, we're making reductions to tank durability and self-healing. This will allow us to smooth out the damage tanks and this will allow us to smooth out I was reading it as damage tanks, like blood DK is a high damage tank. This will allow us to smooth out the damage tanks and parties take while retaining the challenge of keeping them alive over time. We'll take those changes into account and encounter tuning as well. Tanks will take overall more damage, but shouldn't die significantly more often. I guess that's a good thing. To increase the overall damage tanks take and their reliance on healers, we're primarily increasing the percentage of damage they take after mitigation from steady damage source like physical attacks. We're making fewer reductions to each class's defenses against burst damage and other threats that are currently the most likely to be lethal to them. Encounters will be tuned with this in mind, so the character of the tank damage changes, but the lethality of it doesn't significantly increase. So after mitigation increasing the damage they take, I mean, physical damage is always like, so you're just like reducing my armor. I mean, you can say percentage after mitigation, but it's the same thing. It's just semantics. You know, if you take 50% less damage with armor and then they tack on 10% of that 50% of damage, like it's not, you know, it's not a big deal. I had the same thing in SOD where people were like, oh, Blade Dance reduces 10% of damage. And it was like, well, it's after mitigation. It's like, yeah, it's still 10% of damage. 10% of the damage you would have taken is mitigated. So if they add 10% of damage after mitigation, it doesn't matter that it's after mitigation. I don't know. It's probably a lot more, I mean, it is a lot more complicated if you want to break down all the math numbers, but they should have just said you just take 10% more damage. There's no reason to say after mitigation or percentage of damage. Tank damage intake should be steady and not so fast. I agree. One of our goals for these changes is to smooth out the rate tanks take damage to reduce surprise spiky deaths. DK's probably happy to read that. Healers should have time to respond to tank health, and tanks should have time to use self-heals like Word of Glory. These motherfuckers put Word of Glory as the self-heal. They said they really put tanks should have time to use self-heals like Word of Glory. You know that one that does like 20 health? God damn it. Or Celestial Brew. Actually, very good. It's like the worst and the best they picked. I don't know, like what? For some classes, we're increasing their passive defenses to compensate for decreases to more active or reactive defensive mechanics. Tank busters will still create challenging moments that reward tanks for planning and smart use of cooldowns. Okay. Tanks will have strong answers to threat or periods of danger, but less sustained self-healing. Tanks should have autonomy over their own survival and will still have cooldowns or emergency self-heals like renewal or impending victory. But the healing of continuous effects like a Loon's Favored or, oh man, that's going to be tough. But the healing of continuous effects like a Loon's Favored or Indomitable are reduced. So tanks must have a more, So tanks must have more of a partnership with healers to restore their missing health once lost. What if I hate my healer? Loon's Favored did heal a shit ton. Same with Indomitable. Like at the end of a dungeon, Indomitable would have an insane amount of healing, and Loon's Favored, same thing. But that's like the selling point of Bear Druid is Loon's Favored in the healing that they have, and Indomitable is just probably what makes warriors feel good right now because of their self-sustain was really good with that. Healer gameplay should not be dominated by tank healing. Healers play a critical role in keeping tanks alive as part of what they bring to the table. However, healers contribute to the success of groups in many ways, especially in dungeons. They sustain the group, dispel harmful effects, and respond to burst damage, all while doing mechanics. Tank healing should not demand so much that it interferes with their other roles. It may take some iteration to get the balance right on this, where healers feel essential to tank survival, but with their attention not overly demanded by it. This is going to be a shit show while they figure that out. Tank gameplay should not significantly change or require actions like kiting to survive. Kiting to survive was the worst meta. Kite meta was the worst meta we've ever had. I noticed it was in, I want to say it was like Shadowlands. You did that shit a lot, and it sucked. It was so bad. There's never a case where running away from mobs should be your play style. So I really hope that this just doesn't become kiting to survive. We're happy that more players are enjoying playing tanks with their friends and in pickup groups. Well, you've just destroyed that. Good job. There are a lot of demands on tanks, such as learning Mythic Plus routes, leading groups, and knowing what trash abilities are particularly dangerous. The gameplay of standing toe-to-toe with groups of enemies and the tactics you've learned to survive should continue to be effective. Your feedback, please. How durable do you feel before and after the changes? What makes you feel that different? Okay, well, we're going to test this, and I'm going to go in with Monk, which Monk has felt extremely, extremely durable. And I'm going to see if I just get annihilated, because that's going to be horrendous. Oh, is this the class updates? So this is kind of this is the same thing. Is this the same thing? Yeah, okay. Cool. We can skip that then. So let's go down here. Class updates. Blood Death Knight. Death Strike is a powerful ability that allows the Blood Death Knights to mitigate a percentage of any form of damage taken in the last 5 seconds. In a way, Death Strike works like a retroactive shield block. Instead of reducing damage up front, it mitigates the damage you took by healing you. If used in succession, Death Strike can affect a single hit multiple times, which will be comparable to blocking a hit, then going back in time and blocking it again. In some cases, restoring yourself to higher health than where you started. Oh, they figured out how blood decay works. In the War Within, we're changing Death Strike to only heal a Death Knight for a percentage of damage taken from a given damage event once? What? Wait a minute. So heal the Death Knight for a percentage of damage taken from a given damage event once. So if you get hit with something and you just hit that Death Strike, do you heal right back up? And then what? Your next Death Strike doesn't do anything? Or is it going to be like for dots and stuff like that, like damage over time? Like if you have a bunch of dots on you and you smack Death Strike, you only get heals from the first death. You only get heals on the first Death Strike, and all the damage that you take from the dots afterwards don't go into your healing. That sounds awful if that's how it is. Given damage event once, does that mean tank busters? I'm assuming that that's actually something they couldn't possibly do. But that sounds really bad for Death Knights. I want to see, I'm curious how it works, because if it's saying any damage from a given damage event once, so you can only heal from one ability, and then you have to wait for it to be hit on you again to heal from that ability. I don't know, that sounds weird. We're also reducing runic power generation somewhat and reducing the why are you reducing runic power generation? Like, packing in a lip pillow. Why are we reducing runic power generation? So it's like it's already kind of a niche tank, and you can get caught without runic power generation pretty easily, and you already got beat up. I mean, you obviously you get beat up here. That's the whole point of Death Knight. Now you're okay. Reducing some of the mitigation Death Knights get from high uptime cooldowns like Enfeeble and Dancing Rune Weapon. Why? But increasing armor from Bone Shield. Okay. The tiers actually makes Bone Shield really nice. Overall, Death Knight should take damage more smoothly, as they will remain one of the strongest tanks for encounters with high magic or periodic damage. Death Strike can now only, a new aura, Coagulating Blood, shows the amount of recently taken damage that will be used to calculate the value of your next Death Strike. The aura description lists the value as a flat amount, and the number of stacks shows it as percent. Wait. A new aura, Coagulating Blood, shows the amount of recently taken damage that will be used to calculate the value of your next Death Strike. The aura description lists the values as a flat amount, and the number of stacks shows it as a percentage of your current health. I'm gonna have to see that in game. That's good. It's a weak aura, basically, they put in the game, so I guess that's good. Blood Shield's cap is now 50% of the death. What? Okay. Let's talk real quick. Death Knight has 7 million health. If they Blood Shield 100% of their health, actually no, let's say they have 6 million health, and they Blood Shield 100%. They survive Edna on Stone Vault. They survive Edna's Beam and Tank Buster. They survive that at 6 million health with 100% shield. They survive that by about 4 million. They have 6 million health, and they only get a shield of 50%. They die. And that's insane. That's a terrible change. Like, obviously we're just reading it. We're gonna have to play it to see how the damage feels. but it doesn't look like they're changing any damage intake, and they're just changing like your ability to live. And it was already, it felt like you were like, every tank felt like you got beat up. So like, this is crazy. And the cap is no longer temporarily increased by vampiric blood. Great. See you later, Sand Lane. Ugh. Rune of the Fallen Crusader now heals for 4% of your maximum health. Was 6. Runic. What? Don't worry about that. It's just a bottle of ginger ale. I don't like cups. Anyways, Rune of the Fallen Crusader now heals to that. Blah, blah, blah. Runic attenuation now generates 3 runic power. It was 5. Why are we reducing runic power generation? Enfeeble reduces damage dealt to you by 12%. Was 15. Okay. No magic reduces damage taken by 8%. Was 10. Bone shield increased by 20%. Leeching strike now heals for 0.25 of maximum health. Was 0.5. That was, I don't think that was a very big part of their healing anyways. Dancing rune weapon increases parry chance by 35%. Was 40%. That's not terrible. That's, you won't really feel that much. Each active dancing rune weapon generates 3 runic powers when mirroring heart strike. Was 5. You'll still get a ton of runic power from that. Everlasting bond increases dancing rune weapons duration by 6 seconds. Was 8. That kind of sucks. That's an extra heart strike, or 2 if you have the runes for it. Blood Drinker reduces the damage the enemy deals to you by 15%. Was 20. Bone Storm heals you for 2% of your maximum health. Was 3. Up to a maximum of 10%. Was 15. Bone Storm damage increased by 20%. Okay, so that's a rough take. That feels like it hurts to read as Death Knight. Well, let's check out Demon Hunters. Demon Hunters are not my forte, so I might have less to say here. Like Deathstrike for Death Knight, soul fragments give Demon Hunters strong recovery against any type of damage, as well as strong self-healing. Because Demon Hunters consume soul fragments steadily, we're not changing the rules for how often they can affect a damage event. That's good. We're increasing Vengeance's overall damage taken by weakening the damage reduction of talents like Void Reaver and Illuminated Sigils, while keeping the power of core abilities like Soul Fragments and Demon Spikes. They will continue to be one of the stronger tank classes at self-healing and surviving magic damage. Okay. Live by the Glaive now restores 2% of maximum health. That kind of sucks, a 50% decrease. Thick Skin increased stamina by 60%. I feel like that's not a huge deal. 5%. Like when you're getting 60%, 5% isn't that bad. If it was 10%, 5% would be horrible. But Demonic Ward reduces physical and magical damage taken by 8%. Was 10%. Again, not drastic change. Soul Cleave healing reduced by 20%. That sucks. A hefty amount of healing. Frailty heals for 8% of damage done, down from 10. That is a bigger change than Demonic Ward, because this just reduces the damage you take by 2%. But Frailty is on 6 targets. So if you got 2% reduced damage on 6 different targets, or 2% reduced healing from 6 different targets, it stacks up. So that one actually stings a little bit. Void Reaver reduces the damage you take from targets affected by Frailty by 3%. Was 4. You won't even feel that. Illuminated Sigils grants 12% parry chance. Was 15. Depending on what your parry chance is at, you might feel that a little bit. But I don't know. If you had something that said increase your parry by 3%, would you be like, this is 100% I need this? You know, that's what I mean. It's probably not as bad as people are making it out to be. Down in Flames reduces Fiery Brand cooldowns by 12 seconds, down from 15 seconds. So that's probably worse. I know Fiery Brand was like a big deal for Vengeance Demon Hunter, so that probably stings. Metamorphosis increases maximum health by 40%. Was 50. That's kind of big, because Metamorphosis was when you were the most tanky and you had the best ability, like the best chance of staying alive. So that's why I think it's not Eldrazi Reaver, but the other one, you kind of just want to stay in Metamorphosis. You want to prolong that as much as possible, and that's kind of why, because you're very safe in it. Dark Glare Boon now refreshes 15 to 30. Now refreshes 15 to 30% of Fell Devastation's cooldown. Was 20 to 40, and refunds 15 to 30 Fury. Was 20 to 40. You probably feel that a lot. That might make the class feel a little clunky depending on how smooth it was. Depending on how smooth it was, like gameplay wise, to keep using Fell Devastation, you know, consistently. That might hurt. I feel like that's gonna feel like how Rogue got their changes, and now it's not, the play style is just not as smooth. It's super clunky, so that might sting. All right, Guardian Druid. Guardian Druid is probably ranked as one of my favorite tanks, so it's a top one, and also had really good self healing. So let's see how bad this is. With high armor and iron for uptime, Druid should be one of the best tanks at surviving physical damage. We're slightly increasing the damage they take from all types of damage and balancing the power of their self-healing. They did have insane self-healing. We're also reducing the duration of some of their cooldowns to make their timing their use more important. That might suck, because some of the builds you don't take like Rage of the Sleeper. There's a build you don't take that. You kind of rely on Bark Skin. So if they cuck Bark Skin, that's going to be rough. Frenzy Regeneration heals you for 20% of your maximum health. Was 32. That hurts. That was such a good get out of jail free card, especially when you berserked and you had it for free and you could just spam it. Iron Fur increases armor by 112% of agility. Was 120. In the build I played, you just kind of macroed Iron Fur in, so you always had a hefty amount of stacks. So that's not horrendous. I feel like you still, with Arcane Bear, you still tend to keep a fairly high amount of stacks, so you shouldn't notice that too much, but I'm sure you'll feel it a little bit. Renew heals you for 20% of maximum health. Was 30. If they're reducing self-healing on the abilities like this for Druids by 10%, Pallys are dead. I don't even want to read the Pally changes. That's going to hurt. Reinvigoration reduces frenzied regeneration cooldown by 10-20%. Was 20-40%. That also hurts. Earth Warden reduces damage taken by 25%. Was 30%. Stings a little bit. 5% is not crazy. Survival of the Fittest reduces cooldowns by 12 and 24%. Was 15 and 30%. That's gonna hurt. Actually, no, 6% of like a minute, 6 seconds. It's probably not as drastic as it reads. Shoots and Claw reduces damage taken by 12%. Was 15. Again, probably not too drastic. After the Wildfire triggers after spending 300 rage. Was 200. After the Wildfire was just a nice added effect, but that's, 50% increase on how much rage you have to spend. That kind of sucks. Ursock's Fury grants a shield equal to 25% of Thrash and Maul's damage. Was 4. Okay, Ursock's Fury sucked before. There's no reason to nerf that. Our attack power, like the scaling of this shield with how much damage we did, was already bad. So now it's half of that. That's a dead talent now. See you later, Ursock's Fury. Alloon's Favored. Let's see. Alloon's Favored. I lost my place. Heals you for 25% of arcane damage dealt. Was 40%. That's gonna hurt a lot. Alloon's Favored was massive healing, and cutting it almost in half. That hurts. Rage of the Sleeper duration reduced to 8 seconds. Rage of the Sleeper's damage taken reduction reduced to 20%. Rage of the Sleeper's leech decrease. Rage of the Sleeper. That was one of like my favorite defensives, because it's only like a minute cooldown, and so when I didn't take it and relied on Bark Skin, I always kind of missed that talent. So that sucks that they didn't just nerf one part of it; they nerfed the entire thing. So that's probably accumulatively a pretty big nerf. Pulverized duration reduced to 8 seconds. Was 10. We don't even take Pulverized, so who cares? Ursock's Guardian reduces the cooldown of Incarnation, Guardian of Ursock, by 1 second for each 25 rage spent. Was 20. Probably not too drastic. If you're spending 20 rage, you're probably spending 25, so it's not too big of a deal. All right, this was my main. Here it is. Healers have more time to heal monks than other tanks because Stagger spreads out the damage that they take over time. Our goal is for monks to take a little more damage overall than other tanks to offset this effect. Cool, great. So the only benefit we had is going to be offset. However, we feel their overall magic damage mitigation is a little low compared to other tanks and are improving it somewhat by buffing Stagger and its value against magic. That's huge. That's actually really good. To increase their physical damage taken overall, we're primarily reducing the dodge granted by Elusive Brawler and some of their other talents. That's fine. If I remember right, Elusive Brawler is 1 dodge until your next successful dodge. That's fine. So usually it just gets spent usually almost immediately, so that's okay. All right. Brewmaster's Balance increases monk's armor by 50%. Was 25. buff. Elusive Brawler's chance to dodge reduced by 12%. Wait. I'm gonna have to see how that actually layers out with mastery, because it depends how much mastery you have. Celestial Fortune heals you for 70% of the amount healed was 80. Amount of damage staggered increased by 8%. Percentage of magic damage staggered increased to 58% was 45. Those are good changes. Those are good changes. Dance of the Wind's chance to dodge reduced by to 5% was 10% for Brewmaster only. Okay. Yu'lon's Grace grants an absorb shield to 1% of your maximum health was 2%. Every 3 seconds was 2 seconds. Yu'lon's Grace. Yu'lon's Grace is your magic shield, right? Well, you're gaining, yeah, magic absorb. Okay, that's good. I don't really necessarily mind the change. I feel like when you're in dungeons, you don't really build that up anyways too quickly. Because if you're just taking magic damage, you just never have a real chance to build it. So when you do have a chance to build it, I feel like this isn't going to hurt it too bad. Healing Wind restores 10% of maximum health was 15. I played this class and I feel like I'm missing Healing Winds. Monks. Transcendent. Oh wait, what? I don't know. Okay, we'll figure that out when we get into the game. Healing, staggering strikes, healing reduced by 28%. Okay. Staggering strikes, monks. When you blackout kick, your stagger is reduced by blank. Oh, that kind of hurts. Spirit of the Ox, chance to summon a healing sphere reduced by 40%. That kind of sucks because the healing spheres were a good chunk of your damage. So that's gonna suck. You don't really notice it because you're kind of, if you spinning crane kick, you just get them. But I feel like we will feel that heavy of a reduction. Elixir of Determination, healing reduced to 30% of recently purified damage was 50%, or a minimum of 8% of your maximum health was 20%. That's a big change. The 30% of recently purified damage is okay because you do purify a ton of damage. You'll definitely feel that. That's gonna suck. But a minimum of 8% compared to 20%, that sucks. Celestial Brew, healing reduced by 10%. Celestial Brew's shield was massive, so I think that's okay. It's you could get it up to like 2 or 3 million, so it's still gonna be a hefty shield. Pretense of instability grants 10% dodge was 15%. So we're gaining. It looks like we're gaining stagger. So we're gonna stagger more damage, but we're gonna take more damage. So I don't know how much of a change this is gonna be, because if we're staggering more and taking more. Sorry, thought I heard something. Staggering more and taking more, it might kind of balance. We might see a little reduction in like the outside self-healing, but most of it is from Purifying Brew, and that didn't get changed. So okay, so I'm not just, upset with these, honestly. Compared to like the Death Knight ones, this is fine. Prot Pallys. Oh god. Prot Pallys were my favorite class, and their self-healing was in the toilet. So let's see what happened here. Paladins have a balance of good defenses against both physical and magical damage. They can be in danger if they lose the defensive power of standing and concentrate, or if the armor bonus of shield or the righteous drops. So we are not reducing any of their passive physical defenses like armor or block. That's good. Thank God. Like druids, paladins have high uptime on their defensive cooldown, so we're pulling back some of their durations to make the timing of their use more important. We would like paladins to have slightly more self-healing, so we are increasing the power of Word of Glory. Thank the heavens. Let's see how much they actually increase. They're going to be like 5%. It's going to be fucking awful. Ugh. Shield of the Righteous increases your armor by 150% of your strength was 170. The damage reduction effect while standing in consecrate divine mastery divine bulwark is reduced by 20%. That sucks. That's a hefty reduction. Okay. Sanctified plates armor increase no longer applies to bonus armor from Shield of the Righteous. Sanctified plates was a really, really strong talent. I remember when it first came out, it was very strong. So that's probably warranted. Maybe not right now because they're already in a bad spot, but it's probably warranted long term. Improve Holy Shield increases your chance to block spells by 8% was 10. It's okay. The Dusk buff of Dusk and Dawn reduces your damage taken by 4% was 5. Probably won't even feel that. Word of Glory 10%. I knew it was going to be shit. I knew it was going to be bad. Word of Glory healing increased by 10%. So now I'll heal 440k instead of 400k. Thank the heavens. God, they suck. Sentinel's duration reduced to 16 seconds was 20. Sentinel you can increase by using holy stuff, so it'll probably sting, but probably not as much as it reads. Eye of Tears duration reduced to 6 seconds was 9 seconds. That's terrible, and that's bad because of Templar, because you used it every pull because of Templar, and now the move that you have to use for one of your hero talents is worse. That sucks. Righteous Power, Holy Paladin, Holy Power abilities reduces cooldowns by 1.5 seconds was 2 seconds. Again, probably won't feel that. It might stack, but probably won't feel too dramatic. You have a lot of defensive cooldowns. All right, well, Pallys aren't nerfed as bad as I thought they would get nerfed. But they're not like, these changes don't make Pallys a viable tank right now. Like every other tank is still gonna have, 3 times their self-healing. So I'm gonna shit for Pallys. I wish they didn't change the consecration. I think that was like one of the things that Pallys have to rely on is being in consecration, and now you just took that and reduced it. So that sucks. I'll try Pally out today because I'm curious how it feels. Because they changed damage numbers, so we'll see. Warriors are the strongest tank against physical damage, so they can be vulnerable to magic or periodic damage. In this round of changes, we're increasing their damage taken across the board by reducing the power of defensive stance. We just got a good defensive stance. Warriors also have some strong heals to scale with their maximum health, like in Indomitable and Impending Victory, so reducing the power of those abilities to compensate for the 60% increase to stamina. Wait, what? Oh, I think that's probably just talking about the increase from going from Dragonflight to this. Pain and Gain now heals for 2% of your maximum health was 3.15 or 3.5. Impending Victory heals you for 20% of your maximum health was 30%. That sucks. Impending Victory was a really good, if you're in trouble, just hit that button and you're kind of back in it. So 10% reduced on that you're going to feel that. Defensive Stance reduces damage taken by 16% was 20%. It's just a nerf. It's not, if it was like 10%, it would be, you just wouldn't use it. So this is probably like getting close. If they nerf this again, it's probably getting close to the point where it's just like, just stay in battle stance. Fight Through the Flames causes defensive stance to reduce magic damage you take by 6% was 5%. That's good. Into the Fray increases haste up to 8% was 10%. I don't even use that. I think Mountain Thane and Unstoppable Object or Immovable Force, whatever the other on this node is, synergize really, really well. So I don't even use Into the Fray. Punish reduces damage enemies deal to you by 2% was 3%. Again, that's probably it probably looks fine, but if it's against multiple enemies, it's gonna feel worse as the more people you pull. Enduring Alacrity increases stamina and armor by 8% was 10%. Probably won't notice that too much. Indomitable increases your maximum health by 6% was 10%. That kind of sucks. And heals you for 1% of your maximum health per 20 rage spent was 10 rage. This was probably, Indomitable was probably too strong. Realistically, at the end of my dungeons, like this would be like 60% of my self heal would be this, because you can just blast rage on Mountain Thane. It's got pretty good rage spending. So I'm curious to see how noticeable this change is, because you heal you still gonna heal a lot. You still blow through rage very quickly. But you used to get 10% of your maximum health by using a full bar of rage, whereas now you're only gonna get 5%. But still, if you're just building rage and dumping it, that's still not bad. Defender's Aegis reduces shield wall's cooldown by 60 seconds, was 30 seconds. That's good. That's good. Shield wall actually came off cooldown pretty quickly anyways. So that's a nice little change. Impenetrable wall causes shield slam to generate. Okay, so this is what I usually, impenetrable wall. Causes shield slam to generate an additional 4 rage, was 3, and reduces the remaining cooldown of shield wall by 6 seconds, was 5 seconds. That's good. That's really good. Wait, hold on. Maybe it's not good. Let's see. The War Within Warrior talents. If I'm thinking of the same talent, then it might be really bad. Let me get this up. Talent calculator. Warriors protection. No. Okay, I'm thinking of heavy repercussions. So what is this one? Impenetrable, not impenetrable wall. Yeah, impenetrable wall. Search for it. Shield wall. Okay, okay. Yeah, this is the one I think we typically take anyways, or at least I've taken. I was getting shield wall and shield block mixed up there, but yeah, that's actually pretty good. It's between the shield wall cooldown right here and impenetrable wall, you're gonna have shield block or shield wall a lot more often, so that's good. Disrupting shout cooldown increased to 90 seconds, was 75 seconds. That doesn't make any sense. That was something that I feel like we used all the time and wasn't. Wait, disrupting shout we don't even take. That's the, yeah. 1.5 minute cooldown. Yeah, that's not great, but we don't typically take it anyways, so not horrendous. All right. Overall thoughts on this is Death Knight got it the worst. I think that's pretty clear. I'd say Guardian Druid got beat up the most, the second most. All their big heals got almost cut in half, and then the stuff that wasn't even that good just got even worse. So that's tough. Brewmaster I think still in a good spot. I think Brewmaster's still, I think this is kind of solidifying that they might be the best tank still. So we'll have to play them too. Prot Pallys, I feel like didn't change. They're still gonna get beat up. They're still I feel like they're probably worse now. I think every tank, if we gotta say they're all got nerfed, they're all gonna be worse. But Prot Warrior, I think still stands up. Brew still stands up. Vengeance might be hurt a little bit. Oh man, it sucks. I was really enjoying tanking, and I feel like they're gonna lose a lot of people who just started tanking. Quick ranking, I'm saying it's gonna be Brew, Prot, Druid, Vengeance, DK, Pally. I think that's just how it's gonna fall. I think DK just, unless they solve the DK one-shot crisis in Mythic Plus, these changes just are really bad for them. Yeah, they probably got it the worst. All right, this is okay. These are just the changes. All right, we got some tier set tunings. Let's go through these two. Ugh. Arcane damage you deal is increased by 5% and bleed damage decrease. Okay. Oh, that's whatever. Okay. All right, so yeah, this is rough for TKs. Death, loot. Why are they nerfing the soul survivability of Death Knight with all this shit? They want to put it all on Bone Shield, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense to reduce runic power, reduce that Death Strike stress. Sorry, I was up at 5 a.m. for work. We Yeah, they're reducing all their good things, like the things that make Death Knights Death Knights. They're reducing everything on it, and that's rough. Vengeance feels like it's probably going to be really rough, mainly for like the reduced healing across different targets, the soul cleave reduction, the reduced uptime on metamorphosis. That's going to hurt. Guardian Druid, just the list of reducing stuff in like this, like reducing that in half, cutting this almost in half, almost doubling Wildfire. Ursock's Fury already sucked, now it sucks more. Cutting Elun's Favored in half. Like, they just cut so many of their big abilities in half. That's probably who I'm going to play first, because I want to see how that holds up. Brew, like I said, Brew feels like they said, all right, this is how tanky you are, and this is stagger, this is just blunt tankiness, and they went like this. And I said, oh okay, it's kind of like where it is. And then self-healing dropped a little bit because of like Elixir of Determination, staggering strikes, healing wind, stuff like that. But I feel like their overall are still going to be the better tank, because stagger is like, stagger is how, like I said, stagger is how damage should be distributed on tanks. Like that kind of, there's always an impending threat, it's always coming, and you need to be ahead of it, but you're not running out, getting hit, and getting dropped to 10%, and then your healer is just panic healing you back up. So I think Brew is kind of the design. I think Brew is what they're going for other tanks, by saying like, hey, we're going to stabilize the damage. You're going to take more of it, but we're going to stabilize it so there's a chance to heal you up. That's what Brew did. Brew already stabilized your damage and let you take more of it. So we'll see if like, I don't see any changes to mob damage here, which feels like they should be there, but yeah, tanks will take more damage overall, but shouldn't die significantly more often. Shouldn't die. They shouldn't. They should be fine. What's the worst that could happen? All right, let's play some games.